If you are an estate agent, letting agent, or someone who is wanting to know what's happening in the property market, then this, the UK Property Market Stat Show, is for you. My name is Chris Watkin, and each week I have a special guest. This week it's Kristian Stott. We'll come to Kristian in a second, where we talk about what's happening in the property market. Now, an awful lot of people use stuff like the Land Registry or the Halifax or Nationwide details, but we're actually looking at something even better than that. You see, the problem with the Land Registry is that it looks at data and sales from 6, 7, 8 months ago. The Halifax and Nationwide are looking from sales and house prices from 2 or 3 months ago. We're looking at house prices and statistics from last week. And by looking at last week's figures, we know what's going to happen to those statistics months and months in advance. So if you want an unfair advantage of wanting to know what's happening in the property market, then this, the UK property market, is for you. This week's special guest is Kristian Stott. He is big in technology, and he also used to run a massive estate agency operation in the West Midlands, and he knows his onions. He is a regular contributor to the show and is absolutely fantastic. Kristian, thanks for joining me again this week.
Hello, Chris.
Pleasure. So, Kristian, we're looking at week 26, which is Monday, the 24th of June, all the way through and including Sunday, the 30th of June. Week 26. Can't believe we are halfway through the year now, ladies and gentlemen. And now it's probably, I think it's about 25 Fridays. And well, by the time this comes out, it'll be 24 Fridays to Christmas, ladies and gentlemen. So let's have a look at those stats, ladies and gentlemen.
I can't believe you've used the C word already. Oh my goodness me.
Well, it's quite interestingly, Kristian, is that my daytime job, I know you know this, but some people that watch this don't, is I'm a ghostwriter for agents. And I've got the data on how long it takes to sell a house in each town in the UK. And it'd be amazed if you wanted to guarantee a move, then most people actually had to put their house on the market about 3 weeks ago. Anyway, but we're not here to talk about that, ladies and gentlemen. We are here to look at those Stalaroonies. So anyone that's not watched the show, this show is about an hour's long. It's roughly split. First half talks about the UK property market, and the second half looks at a town or a city's estate agency population and almost does what's called a Rightmove Plus report. But this is no ordinary Rightmove Plus report. This is a Rightmove Plus report on steroids with Saturn V rockets, lasers and glitter balls coming out of it. It is really, really intensive, looking at both the estate agency stats and the letting agent stats. This week, the focus is on Runcorn in Merseyside. And what I would say is this, is even if you're not from Runcorn, then do check out that section, because we're going to be using a fantastic bit of software which proves whether you're a good estate agent or not. So if you're an agent that's being hounded by or battled by agents that are overvaluing, and then dropping their prices quickly, or low fees, and you are a damn good estate agent, then watch that element on Runcorn, because we're going to be showing you a very fancy bit of kit which proves, and this is for any town in the UK, that you are a better estate agent, you can get more money. So with no further ado, Kristian, let's go and look at them stats. So as always, what happens, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who have not watched the show before, I just spend 60 seconds looking at the stats, and then Kristian comes in and gives his thoughts. So this week, in terms of the listings, we have put onto the market in the UK 35,593 properties. And if you compare that with other weeks, that is not bad at all. But again, Kristian will give his thoughts on that one in a second. Year to date, 924,000 properties have come onto the market. And if you compare that with the average of 17, 18 or 19, or the average of that, that is 7.5% higher and 11.4% higher than compared to all the years, and 8.2% higher than last year in 2023. So listings are much better. We look at that and actually put that on a graph. The yellow thick line, or the yellow grainy, not yellow, the white stroke grey thick line is 2024. And you can see the other years on there being 17, 18, 19 and 23. You'll notice there that they've got some spikes there. And basically, the first spike is always Easter. And then the two other spikes are the bank holiday. So again, notice how different years we have different Easter's because it's the way that it falls, but then we always have the drops down. The average price for a property coming on the market, £442,000, which is very much in line, which is what it has been for a while. What's your thoughts, Kristian?
You know, I don't know if I have a huge amount of thoughts, Chris, because there's not a lot there. I think it's nice to see the stock coming. And I remember vividly the last time we spoke about the fact that we said, I think the words were, what was a glut? I don't think you said there's not a glut quite clearly. And I think it's very true. They're not climbing to that sort of height. But I mean, what's in those numbers, really? Stock's coming on the market, but there's no picture that I can see.
I mean, again, we're filming this on Monday, the 1st of July, and this will be coming out later in the week. Now, the stats, I get the month-end stats for the number of properties that come onto the market. So we haven't had end of June's figures yet. They will appear in next week's show. But you can see there that stock levels are at 694,000. I suspect they'll probably just dip over the 7 mark. But again, let's just give context to this. There was 1.4 million houses for sale in 2008. So that's when there is a glut of property. So again, this graph here just shows you the number of properties. Whilst while we're here, might be of interest.
What that shows quite clearly, Chris, which I suppose is important, is that we are on a nice trajectory out of too few properties for sale, which is definitely the case looking back a year or two. So I think that growth in available stock is important. There's choice. There's stuff for agents to sell and earn money out of, which going back a way was a real problem. But I don't know what picture it paints beyond that.
It's just mate. It's Groundhog Day. Okay. Look, the yellow lines are end of May, okay? Look, she goes up and then she drops down. This is the number of properties available for sale. So she goes up from January, she goes up, she peaks around the summer, and she drops back down. God, sorry about this. She drops up, she drops down, she drops up. And then we had the weird couple of years, okay?
Yeah.
And then, as I said, we're back to more normal years. But
May 20, yeah. Right? So May 20 is give or take 2 months after the COVID. The context points are probably May 18 and 19.
All the yellows are the same Mays for context, okay?
Yeah. And so where we're at now is there's a few more properties on the market than there was in May 19 and May 18. And that number is not at a point where we would start to say, my goodness, we need a bigger window because this one's full.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment. And again, that number will probably go up to about 720, 730, and then she'll probably dip down to around 620 at Christmas. We go again. And again, I think it's important that you look at each month in isolation, but you'll also look at the trend. And again, let's just remind ourselves that back in 2008, during the global financial crash, that number just went up like a skyrocket because everyone dumped their houses on the market. And that's the magic thing, is what caused house prices to drop was the number of properties on the market for sale. Too much supply. We all know what caused that, and that's why I think it's really important. What I recommend anyone, whether they're an estate agent or a home buyer or home seller, is number one, work out how many houses are for sale in your town. Number two, work out how many are sold subject to contract. So normally you just go to Rightmove, click on the word add sold subject to contract, and that'll take the number up from one figure to the next. And if you just take the two away, that's your sold subject to contracts. You measure both numbers and you measure the ratio between the two, and that will give you a flavour of where the housing market is going. So, and again, if you were really smart and you had the time, you could split that down by housing type and house price band as well. Remembering that the higher priced properties have a lower propensity to sell, so don't be alarmed by that. Just whilst we're here, Kristian, we'll just pick up. These are the number of properties that are in 8 agents' pipelines as of the 31st of May. As I said, I haven't had the numbers through. I won't probably get them until the 30th.
I'm just going to move your head. This is sales agreed, is it?
This is sales. This is sales in agents' pipelines.
Yeah.
Okay. This is unit numbers as at the end of every month. So the white line the white lines are 31st of May's. As I said, I haven't got the 30th of June's yet. They'll probably be coming out on the day that this show comes out, but we have to pre-record it and get it all sorted. So we'll have that in next week's show. But again, that to say that sales pipelines are not, are not a million miles off what they were in the proverbial good old years of 21 and 22. And again, look at the pipelines that were taking place in 17, 18, and 19.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of realistic expectation, it's a reasonably good number.
I mean, it's
the only thing is we don't know what impact time to sell has on that number.
Okay, but I mean, okay, so what is particularly interesting is that the time it takes to agree from sale agreed to completion in the last 12 months has gone down 8 days compared to the 12 months before, which I thought was interesting. So at the moment we're
what? Are we 170 something? Where is it at now?
Okay, keep talking, and I'll just pull.
I don't know what about.
I'll just put up the stats now. Hold on a second.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Just pulling it up now. Okay. So, right, hold on. Here we are. So I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll do a new share. Here we go.
I'm hanging on by a thread now, Chris. I can't wait.
No, hold on. It isn't that interesting, mate. Here we go. Okay, hold on.
Right. Beautiful.
Okay, so this year, so this is June 23 to June 24. On average, 72 days to find a buyer and 114 days from sale agreed to completion. The 12 months before that, so that is June 22 to June 23, 53 days to find from new instruction to sale agreed to 123 days. So it's gone down from 123 days
to 114.
To 114.
And I guess okay. So the total time from listing to completion, where's that at? Similar number? Has that actually moved?
Well, okay, so you add the two together. So 114 and 72 is 196.
Isn't it? Yeah.
So what's 186 divided by 7? Let's just find our sums out. There we go. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. You see this live. Divided by 7. 26 weeks. So on average, 26 weeks. Okay, 53 plus 123 divided by 7. 25 weeks.
Right.
So what's happened is that the time it takes to find a buyer has gone up, but what conveyancers have been doing is reduce that time.
Yeah.
Now, what is particularly interesting here is out of the biggest 10 estate agents, if you want to sell your home the quickest, EXP, an average of 155 days, whilst Yopa, 219 days. So
how many is there? Is there 10 there? Is there? That's the top 10. Okay.
Those are the top 10 by unit numbers. Okay. Now again,
there's a very long conversation in there, isn't there?
Well, I mean, again, some estate agents hold off the sale, instructing the sale, so they're going to hold it off, which means the blue line is going to be longer, which is probably what Yopa does because their sale agreed.
Yeah.
That's not bad. Sale agreed 97 days, so they're just holding off putting the sold sticker on. But you've got to look at the whole time there. So
that total time to completion piece is interesting, very interesting.
So
is there a factor that influences it? Because you're looking at a relatively young business model there, in real terms.
What, Yopa or EXP?
EXP, certainly in comparison to the top 10 of the. Just out of interest, though, this isn't top 10 fastest. This is top 10 based on trading volume, then ordered by fastest.
Yes.
Yeah.
The top 10 unit numbers, and then those top 10. And I could, the thing is this, and ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about this when we look at Runcorn. You've got these stats for your own town, so you can take these stats out and show them to the punters of how good or bad you are. And again, I'm not saying that just because you'll take a longer to sell doesn't necessarily mean that you're a worse agent, and if you sell quick that you're a better agent. Nothing compared to from the truth. But if you're just looking at purely on the metric of timescales, there's some interesting.
But there are many factors, and you've talked about sort of conveyancing, and then you've obviously got your internal sales progression processes, and then your capacity to price, market, and sell. I'm very intrigued as to how EXP, as a younger operator in that space, have achieved that top spot. And it could just be that there's a technology piece there, or the way in which they interact with the conveyancing process. But I'm wondering whether the sort of personalized model, self-employed model, has an impact on the customer's journey.
Well, it's obviously having something. I'm an absolute massive fan of the self-employed model for the right people. And when you consider that there's 15,000 firms, and on top of that, in that number, EXP and all the self-employed agents are just classified as one brand, but there's over 1,000 self-employed estate agents out there. And when you consider that in terms, in June alone, EXP were the 5th largest estate agent in terms of listings. Beating some big names.
Yeah, no, I get all that, and I think that in itself is intriguing. I'm just this sort of being listed to completing statistic is really a very important one, because I think the time to completion also has an impact on loss rates through the sales cycle. And so for a business that young to be delivering that level of value to customers, I think that's an interest. And it could just be that this, they're putting everything at a low price and they're working with the fastest conveyancer in town. It could be that, but I wonder if there's more to it.
I mean, I'm just putting up the stats now, but let's just sort that out. Just give me a second. But what is particularly interesting, I mean, there, 2 seconds. Just putting.
While you're doing that, you said a moment ago that you think self-employed is a good model, or the right model, or an interesting model for the right people. And I get that. I do. And you've got motivation, the self-starters, all that sort of stuff. But that information suggests it's a good model for the right customer, which is a different conversation entirely.
But again, I've been on record saying that I think an awful lot of estate agents see estate agency there to serve them, as opposed to we're here to serve the client. What is particularly interesting is looking at the top 10 estate agents. And I'm not going to mention names here, but out of the top 10 estate agents in the UK in the last year, the best out of the top 10 as the best agent, 65.2% of homes that have come onto the market they have exchanged on. Okay, and the lowest is 23.56.
I think those who subscribe to Adam Smith believe there's
now
self-interest is the model that provides for the customer. That's where value lies. But okay,
I must stress that 23 is a large capital city agent. So if we take the non-geographic ones and just look at the national ones, you've got 56, 51, 46. You've got a very large franchise operation. So if it's a national brand, but it's run by individuals, 61.2% of the homes that left their books in the last year have exchanged contracts. Another one that's self-employed, 58. A large self-employed model, 60.5. Another self-employed model, 65. So there's a huge difference between biggest corporates at somewhere in the mid to late 40s knocking on the door of 50 and shifting 2 out of 3 homes if you're a national agent. I just find it absolutely fascinating. Right, let's get back to the listings, because we're a quarter of an hour in and we've only just got past the listings. But again, that's why we're here, to comment and just have our thoughts on this. So let's get back. Where are those flipping stats? Hold on a second. There we go. Just open them up now. Coming up now. That's good. Here we go. Okay, so can you see the stat on the screen? Okay. Can you see an Excel spreadsheet behind it as well, or not?
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna get rid of that. That's ugly as hell. There you go.
It's better looking than it used to be.
Is that better? There you go.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the spreadsheet of loveliness. This is the work in progress. So this week, 20,523 properties have been reduced, which works out at 1 in 8.05 homes are being reduced at the moment a month. The average price of a property being reduced is 401. Isn't it interesting? Let's just remind ourselves, ladies and gentlemen, average price of a property coming on the market, 442. The average price of a property being reduced, 401. So the lower price properties are being, more of the lower price properties are being reduced. If there are more higher price properties, that would more. So that would be above the listings figure. Anything on that before we move on to sales?
Not a lot, if I'm honest. The volume number of reductions is interesting, because it's come down from last year, and that could suggest a little bit more of a price focus from agents at the original listing. They're reducing less, maybe, but equally it could just be nothing.
Again, what we've got to remember is that it was about this time of year last year that the interest rate started to dig in. Okay, and you know, we'll look at when we see the fall throughs, you will see that the fall through rate started to rise in early June, in mid-late June, and continued to rise for about 2 or 3 months as interest rates started to dig in. And
the one thing that hasn't been factored into our conversation thus far is, if we go back for the past few years, there wasn't a general election next week.
No, it's had no difference whatsoever.
Yeah, so far. But yeah.
None whatsoever.
No. Oh, well, we'll all be living in camps next year, so it'll be totally different. Okay,
so sale agreed this week is 26,198. Just to give you some context, last week 20,400, the week before 26,400, week before that 26,900, week before that 23,340. But we are still above what happened in 17, 19, and 23. I know we got that lip up there, so I don't know what that lip was there in 2018, but fundamentally we are rocking and rolling, and we are doing really well when it comes to the sales. Cumulative sales, gross sales to date, 641,000, which is 10.2% higher than last year, 6.9% higher than 17, 18, and 19.
Do you know, if you cut 20 to 23 out, there's an interesting line there, back to 19. And it's, you know, maybe we are returning back to that normal market.
It's just a boring market. I mean, you know, we could, to be honest with you, mate, we could do the same show every week, and just, you know, just the numbers are just being boring. Do
you not think that the best market is a boring market?
You take the words out of my mouth, mate. That is the best market.
Yeah.
We don't want shocks. We don't want spikes. We just want nice and easy, nice, you know, and it is better than last year, and it will continue to get better than last year because we had the shock of we had the interest rates drop. You know, and 22 looks quite a bit distance away. I'm telling you here and now, sales fell off the roof in 2022. And you can't see them here, but you will see them in the net sales figures. And it wouldn't surprise me if we catch up with 22 by the end of the year, as long as nothing seismic happens in the UK. Okay, so as I said, there's the graph there, which shows you the gross sales, and then the average price of a property being sale agreed, 371,000. Okay. Again, let's just remind ourselves, this is plotting the average asking price of a property at sale agreed versus average price of a property coming onto the market. There's always going to be a gap because lower price.
They're moving away from each other a little bit. Whether that means much in the coming weeks, so you have to watch those lines.
Well, no, I mean, if you look at that they were widening and it got to around 22, 24% last week.
Yeah, it's gotten tight, and then
we'll
just going the other way again now, isn't it?
Okay, so I think this week the gap is 19.1. Last week it was 16. I mean, the long-term average is 16 to 17%. So let's just keep an eye on that one. But even at 19, it's a damn sight better than it was. And again, it's when the gap gets 25-26%, that's when we have to start worrying, ladies and gentlemen, because we've got too high price properties coming on the market and they're not selling. Remember, 53% of properties that have left estate agents' books since the start of 2024 have only exchanged. The other 47% have withdrawn and sold. So it's a flip of a coin whether you get paid or not. Okay, let's look at the fall throughs. And this week, the fall throughs are at, let me just pull that up, 6,170. So the fall throughs are growing. But again, as we say every week, fall throughs on their own is not particularly decent metric. A better metric, in my humble opinion, is the sale fall through rate. So therefore, if you've got 10,000 sales that week and 2,000, so start again. Let's just say you've had 10,000 sales in a week and you've had 2,000 fall throughs. 2,000 as a percentage of 10,000 is 20%. Therefore, the fall through rate is 20%. Again, just remind ourselves, that was the budget of 22. Ignore the Christmas spikes. They always do that. If you recall earlier in the show, we talked about the fact that the property market hardened in June because of the interest rates, and fall through rates went from around 21, 22 up to around the 30% mark. She started to drift off through last year's autumn. Christmas spike, and as I said, she's hovering around the 22, 23 mark, which is about right. In considering that the long-term average, ladies and gentlemen, of fall throughs is actually 24.28. It's not 1 in 3. Okay. Any thoughts on fall throughs?
Not really. It's a number that I would love to see near zero. And as time moves forwards with method of sale and material information, maybe we can head there. But
reservation agreements are absolutely big fan of it. And any agents listening to this, if you haven't got reservation agreements, then I don't know what the hell you're on. There's about 4 or 5 providers. Make sure the reservation agreement guys and girls that you go with give great training. And I'm telling you here and now, if you've taken on reservation agreements and it hasn't worked for you, the problem is with your valuers, ladies and gentlemen. Tough love time, because I'll tell you here and now, if you get your valuers bought in and it's sold the right way, I mean, you've had experience of them, haven't you? When you're one of your roles, it's the valuers. If the valuers don't buy in, then you're not going to.
And you know, also the customers just a little bit. You know, they, you know, a great example. I had a conversation with a friend who's on the market with a certain low fee online agent, and generally, just like when I was speaking with them, no clue what an estate agent does for a living, no clue about the transactional process, no clue about the tripping hazards along the way, and they've just sold on kind of their expected price of what they were paying for the agent, as if it was a coin-op fee, you know, with a lever to pull. And so I do wonder whether there's still an element of customer or consumer expectation that the industry hasn't yet educated sufficiently around what the transactional journey looks and feels like, and what can go wrong with it. And you know, the real cost to a consumer of a sale fall through, if they've got kids in school, if they're starting a new job, if, I mean, it's huge. It's got to go. It's ridiculous. The cost to estate agent, horrific. It's money they've done all the work to earn and then don't get. So you're right. Yeah. Valuers, get out there. Well, whatever it is, you know, modern method, other forms of auction sale, reservation agreements, it doesn't matter, but bringing that security into the process is really important, because protects your cash, protects the customer or customers, buyer and seller. But yeah, I think the consumers still have a journey to go on in terms of becoming better educated about what goes on in the transaction.
Well, it's our job to educate them, and if we're not educating them, then your competitors will. So again, you need to be a thought leader. Right, let's move on. Net sales. So gross sales, less fall throughs this week. This week we are 20,228. To give you an idea of what's happened last week, 20,400, week before 20,500, week before that 20,500, week before that 17,900, week before that 21. So you can see here on the graph here that there is a drift downwards, but there is a the bottom line is this: if you look at previous years, ignoring the silly years of 2020.
In 2020, I mean, you can actually, that people say, oh, everyone knows where they were when Kennedy was shot. You can actually sort of look at the yellow line of 20 and pick fond memories of that period, like when you bought your Peloton bike, etc. It's interesting now that we've gone back to a flatter line. I mean, that yellow line is just bizarre, isn't it? Absolutely bizarre.
What is particularly interesting also is the fact that, there's 2023 and the fact that the net sales has fallen through because fell-throughs started to really increase. So again, the sales were very similar, but the fall-throughs are great. That's why the pink line is a lot lower. You've got the orange line, which is 17 to 19 average. We're ahead of that. And we're not a million miles away from the 22 figure.
We're not far off the orange though. We're heading towards it because you've got 5,000 increments there, haven't you? So it must be hundreds separating now, and I don't know what year orange was because you just zoomed, but it's pretty close.
I take that every day. That you are literally, if you actually, I don't do standalone weeks. What I do is a cumulative. So far this year we are over 500,000 net sales. This is the stuff we're going to get paid on, and that
back to where we were 5 minutes ago, Chris. If you cut out 20 to 23, there's a nice graph line there of a normal, consistent market.
Yeah,
you might even have a nice conversation around sales forecasts.
Well,
I probably agree with each other that they might happen.
Just to give you an idea, we are 12% further on than where we were in 23 and 4.7% higher on, like it says in the graph, compared to the average of 17, 18, and 19. So it's not bad at all, ladies and gentlemen. That's not to say that we should rest on our laurels, but at the end of the day, it's not doom and gloom like the doom and gloom merchants are talking about. A couple of final graphs here. Gross sales as percentage of listing.
I don't know any doom and gloom merchants, do I?
Yeah, probably you've cleansed yourself of that, but there are plenty of them out there. Price changes as a percentage of listings.
So no, just go back to that one. Sorry.
Well, go on. There you go.
I was looking at the wrong one. Okay, fair enough.
Do you want the other one?
No. I went straight to the red one at the end because that was quite exciting. And yeah, there's nothing there really, is there? The COVID years, you could sell pretty much anything. Back to normal.
Right, then. Okay, then.
What's the average if you cut COVID out, just out of interest?
Cut COVID out of what?
If you go back to the previous graph.
Hold on. What? That one?
The green one with the red end. That's the one. Yeah, so COVID is bringing that average down. So 20 onwards, if you cut those 3 years out, it's a different story, isn't it?
Yeah. The 7-year average is going to drag it down. But, should you need to be reducing your prices? Again, I've always gone on record. I believe estate agents are more interested in listing houses than selling them, even though they only get paid on exchange.
You can't score without the ball, can you, Chris?
And you've got to have it to sell it. But at the end of the day,
yeah.
If only one in 2 homes that you put on the market you go get paid on, I'm sorry, you're more interested in the listing.
But is your initial value always the factor that defines that score? Probably not. There's other factors, isn't there?
Come on, as long as you whack it on Rightmove, it's got some decent photographs. It's a level playing field. Comes down to your price
and energy.
Okay, those do help. They do help. And can you sit a bit closer to the camera because you're looking a bit dark at the moment?
Not really. You're the first person to ever say that, Chris.
There you go. Right, should we move on to house prices?
Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen. So on this show we use a different type of metric to look at house prices, and we look at pounds per square foot achieved. Okay. Now, on an individual home, pound per square foot is not particularly fantastic way to measure the value of a home because there are lots of variables. But when you look regionally and even nationally, it is an absolutely amazing bit of kit. That orange line, which is the average pound per square foot, If you move that figure on 5 or 6 months and then compare that figure and you what's called rebase them. So if you take on the you take the growth and rebase it to 100, and then take the land registry and rebase it to 100, and then plot the two lines, they match almost identically with a 92% Pearson correlation coefficient. I'm now getting too technical now, but the bottom line is this. If you want to know what's going to happen to the land registry, you just follow the pound per square foot figure 5 or 6 months in advance, and it will tell you the movements of those of the land registry in 5 or 6 months' time. So it really is mind reading stuff. And it's the orange line that you are matching. And to give you an idea of where we are with that, you know, the figures, if you go back in January 21, it was 331. In February, it was 339. In March, it was 339. In March, it was 344. 348 in May, and it's hovering around the 349, 350 mark in June. Therefore, if you follow that line, that orange line, that's what's going to happen to the land registry in 5 or 6 months' time. Now, again, that figure, if something has cataclysmic changes and the sales fall through, that will affect that. But as long as that doesn't happen and the vast majority of properties do go through, that will foretell. So this week, for the month, I think we're finishing around the 349 mark. I'll just need to do the final sums once I've had today's figures. But that's showing you what's happening to house prices.
So where we're 350 square foot, are we?
Because and let me again just prove that to you. If you can mentally move that orange line to the right, it matches the green line, which is another backup.
So I've just had to convert that into English, right? So that's 3766 per square meter.
What's that? What?
You're in feet, aren't you?
I'm in square footage. Yeah. Yeah. Call me old school. You know, I've got grey hair. We can't be dealing with these meters. Anyway,
and me. It's under the orange.
Right then. So we'd already done those graphs. I think we'll leave it at that for the national figures. Any thoughts before we go and look at Runcorn?
Other than it appears to be seemingly an element of consistency now in the figures. And
it will drift off. You know, listings will drift off. Sales will drift off. We've seen it happens every year. So don't, you know, the spring is where you make the hay, although it does have the ups and downs.
But there's no election trauma in the numbers, is there? I thought we would be having that chat today, and it doesn't seem we have. Maybe people are just ignoring it.
I think people are just getting on with their lives. I mean, it's not, by the sounds of it, you know, I mean, this will be coming out after the election, but we're filming it before. But I think everyone's assuming what's going to happen with the election. So
go on then.
Shocks. Well, it appears that Labour are going to win, but I mean, you know, there were some shocks in France at the weekend. So again, who knows? Who knows? At the end of the day, they're all fools, and they all think they're running the show. And quite frankly, the market's king. Let the market decide. Okay. Okay. Any thoughts before we go to Runcorn?
None today, Chris. Sorry.
No, it's absolutely fine. Right. So I'll just pull up Runcorn. Give me a second. Okay, so for the purposes of this, we are using a platform called Insight. Insight is from the firm called 20EA. They have different platforms, different names, but this particular one is called Insight. And this is Rightmove Plus on steroids with rockets and glitterballs and lasers and awesomeness. And this goes back not just 1 year, but 5 and a bit years, okay? So you can actually see it. It's gold standard stuff. They're not just scraping the portals. They've got lots of fingers and lots of pies with conveyancers, so they can spot when something exchanges because they know the addresses. It is really, really good stuff. I must stress to you that it might come across that I'm on commission with 20EA Insights. I'm not. I'm just an absolute massive fanboy of it. It is one of 2 of my favorite pieces of technology at the moment. The other one being Bricks and Logic, which takes property data and visualizes it onto maps. Amazing. Makes you look like a guru. But this one also, if you are an estate agent and you have problems with overvaluing or agents not selling houses or low fees, and you actually do have the stats to back, this proves the stats to back you up that you're a better agent. It is truly fantastic. I do believe they have a free version, which gives you limited amount of data. And then if you cross their palm with silver, and we're not talking a lot of money here, in my humble opinion, I won't mention the numbers, and please don't mention my name. Just check it out. I tell you what, I think the best thing is just let's have a look at what's going to happen in Runcorn. You can see how powerful it is. So let's go and have a look. So for the purposes of Runcorn, we are looking at the postcode WA7. I appreciate, ladies and gentlemen, that some Runcorn agents do go out a little bit more to the south. And you can have a look at, but for the purpose of this, just WA7. Since the 1st of January 2019, as we can see here, and at 5,134 properties have come onto the market with an average price of £180,000. Okay. Let us have a look at, and then if we go and have a look at the sale agreed figures, the average price of a property selling is 167, which again, we would expect that because lower price properties have a higher propensity to sell. So if we look at whole month figures, let's just, we'll do the stock levels in a second. So let's just kick off, and immediately what's looking at this, and I don't know if you've noticed this yourself, is there are absolutely one massive agent in town called Adams Estate Agents. And I'm trying to work out if I've ever seen a market share that big. I think it's only once, and that would be Michelle Gallagher in Lancaster. And also there's an agent in Derbyshire, in Derby, that's at that sort of level. But that is impressive when you consider that did you say it was a new town before we switched the cameras on?
I did. Mid-60s, Chris.
Okay. And it's going to be a lot of similar properties because you've not got the old stuff, but you've got Best's there at 15 and Edward Grounds at 12.8. Okay, Purple Bricks we can have a look at there, but all the other smaller agents are really picking up the crumbs. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. So let's have a look and see how they're.
It is really interesting. You've got 3 independents at the top with a really dominant market share and a collective market share of nearly 60%. Is that right?
Yeah. The rest.
Nearly 60%. And then you've got Purple Brick Strike with collectively 9, 12. And then part of Countrywide.
I mean, I remember these are over 5 years, so we'll look at the year figures in a second. So let's go and look at Adams. I mean, look at that. That is so over 5 years, it's 33. But if I was to push that, we'll do that in a second. This is nearly 40%. I've never seen anything with a 4 in front of it or knocking on the door. That is really impressive. I would love to know what they're doing. So again, ladies and gentlemen, even if you're not from Runcorn, why don't you go onto their Rightmove? Why don't you ring them up, Mystery Shop them? Just see what they are doing, because I don't know what they're doing, but whatever they are doing, it's very impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go look at Best's.
And then the only one I don't recognise there is Swettenham's. The Gascoigne Hellman's Connells, isn't it?
No.
We've got Connell's Countrywide, Purple Bricks Strike.
Entwistle Green.
Countrywide.
Entwistle Green's Countrywide. I thought Gascoigne.
Swettenham's is Sequence.
Is it?
Mm.
I thought Gascoigne Hallam were independent. A large independent. You just go and check that. I'm pretty sure. Right, let's go look at Edward Grounds. Again, very spiky there, guys and girls. 20%, 10%, 20%.
Yeah. So you've got Swettenham's, Entwistle Green.
Entwistle Green, are they independent? I thought they were large.
Countrywide.
Entwistle Green or Countrywide, are they? What about
I think so. I'm just going to check that one again.
Gascoigne Hallam. I'm pretty sure that they're a big independent.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, good stuff. So again, Edward Grounds.
Countrywide, yeah.
That is all over the place. Whilst Adams, again, you're all a bit spiky. It looks like you fight it all out. let's just move the date.
Price profile looks. You move very quickly between price profile, but the price profile looks very similar between each of those top three.
Okay. 159, 161.
So the volume differs, but the price profile is very similar. And I don't think any of them been instructed above 750.
I mean, let's just have a quick look. Let's just see what their if there is such a thing as an upper quartile market. We'll start at 500,000. I mean, only 52 homes over 500,000 have come on the market in Runcorn. Which again, if it's a new town, there's not going to be much big old stuff, commuter belt.
No Georgian rectories.
No. What did you say? What was all that about?
I was saying no Georgian rectories.
No Georgian rectories. No. I think they're a bit further south and all to the edge of the posh areas. Okay, let's just have a quick look and just see what's happening. If we just go a little bit closer to home. So we'll go from January 1 and just see what the market share there is. We'll just wait for that to come through. Adams at 35. Wow. Wow. Let's do the last year. Here we go. Adams at 35%. Wow. I haven't got words. I'm going to have to find out what they do. I really am. Okay.
I don't think it's nested entirely in brand. Maybe there's a lot to be said for being the name people know.
But it looks like there's three big agents. I mean, again, if we just have a quick look at Purple Bricks, they've dropped off. It says 8.3, but again, a lot of that is from the start of 2019 and 20.
Yeah.
And Whistle Green, they're not, let's just see if there's anyone. Let's just switch off new builds. We don't because they do screw the figures up a bit slightly. Let's just see if any of the agents, and this is stock levels, which has a, kind of similar to new listings. Strike, are you growing? You had a good year. You had a good 22. So I don't know what you've happened there, guys. It's not like you, because of course Strike. I don't remember Strike went over to Purple Bricks. My apologies, mixing it up there. But again, let's just have a quick look at Purple Bricks. So it looks like Strike's gone, and but hasn't been replaced by Purple Bricks. Swetnams, Gascoignes. So it almost no one. You've got the top three agents, of which Adams are the big boys, and you've got no one getting in there, growing to meet them. There is a huge opportunity.
No. And Adams looked to be 3 branch, I think: Runcorn, Stockton Heath, and Widnes.
Yes, but okay, but we are just looking purely at WA7 on this.
No. I agree. I just, I'm just sort of looking at what they are as a business. So they're a reasonably small independent branch wise, but with a massive market share in that particular locality.
Let's just
3 branches.
I mean, let's tell you what. Let's just for a bit of giggles. We've not done this before, ladies and gentlemen. But why don't we just go and have a look at did you say Widnes? So that is hold on. There we go.
I've not heard of Stockton Heath either.
Okay, hold on a second. So I'm just I'll take it off. I've just got to go and find it. Hold on a second. Let us go and find out how well they're doing in what was the town again? I know what the postcode is.
Widnes.
Let's go to Widnes. Hold on. She's WA8. Oh my word. Let me pull up the share. Let me do here. You learn something every day here. Okay, hold on. There you go. 28%.
We'll go on then. We've got to do Stockton Heath as well then while you're at it. Do you want me to give you the postcodes?
Yeah, give me a
WA4, 5, 1, 2, 3, and 13.
No, that's way too much for one person.
All right. We'll do the first 3 then, WA4, 5, and 1.
Hold on a second. You say Stockton?
Did I just say Stockton Heath?
Stockton Heath. That Stockton is not that big. WA4. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll just do that a second. Hold on. Right then. So I'll just pull that up. Hold on a second. So on WA4, they're at number 6. Okay.
Yeah. So I
Ashton.
think in the other two, they appear to be genuinely interstitial, don't they? They are of their community.
Interesting. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we like to do things a little bit differently. Both myself and Stotty are a bit geeky when it comes to our stats. Right, let's get back on track, mate, because with the hour is
Sorry.
no, nothing to be sorry about. Okay, so the next graph here, let me just can you see it? I'm just checking.
Mm.
Right, so I'm just going to switch off the I'm just going to get rid of those new homes because it messes things up. Okay, so here we go. There's a lot of data on here, ladies and gentlemen, and it's just
Well,
like,
that's Onward Living. They're a builder, aren't they?
are they? Can you just
Number
check?
10.
Just check that with you while I'm talking. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, what we've got here is most agents would look at the new instruction and the new instruction market share and the sale numbers and the
Yeah,
sale.
they're a builder.
Okay. We are going to be looking at something a lot more interesting, in my humble opinion. Okay.
Bovis are there as well.
Okay, we'll get rid of those. And what did you say about Onward Living? Are they new homes?
They look like a builder, yeah.
Yeah, they do look like a builder. Okay, we'll get rid of that. Right then. Okay, so the true gold here, ladies and gentlemen, are these 4 columns here, exchange and withdrawn. Okay. It's really, really important that if you consider that an estate agent only, a property only leaves an estate agent's books for 2 reasons. 1, she exchanges, or 2, she withdraws. Okay. There's only 2 reasons. So therefore, working out what comes out the exhaust will give you an idea of how successful an estate agent is. So therefore, in the last year, 30th of June 23 to 30th of June 24, 76%, 76.87% of the properties that have left Adam's books you've exchanged on, whilst 23 you've withdrawn. Whilst number 2 and number 3 bests 83 or dearest damn it 84, okay, and Edwards at 8, almost nearest damn it 82%. Therefore, if I was bests or grounds and I was trying to persuade someone else that I was a better estate agent, let me just work that one out. Hold on a second. If you put your property on the market with best estate agents, you have a 9.13% greater chance of moving home.
Mm.
Or do it the other way around. If you put your house on the market with Adams, you have a 9% lower chance of moving home. Not huge numbers, but there is something there. And again, Edwards could do the same as well. Looks like Ashton's at 50 again, but they're low numbers. But again, the devil is in the detail. Now, what I would say is 76% is exceptional. 80 is mind-blowing.
Mm.
The average is 58, which is really good considering the average in the UK is 53 at the moment. So that's well done on that one. Price changes, it looks like Adams are pretty big on their price changes, although Purple Bricks are big at 55, and the corporates also big, although again, we're talking such low numbers here. So fall through rates, again, 22, which is really good considering
They're working the stock on there. And I was just looking there. I can't exactly recall what the price profile was, although I remember it being low with no high-end stock. But
well, there is no
£213 a foot. It's a low-value market, I think.
It is.
You get quite a lot for your money by the looks of things.
Very much so. But I'd expect that, Okay. Anything on this before we move on and see how quickly they sell these?
Not really. It's been interesting statistics for this session.
Okay, so again, a lot of data going on here, ladies and gentlemen. And we can see here that again, looking at the top 3 estate agents. So what they do, what 20EA do here is that they look at all of your listings and produce an AVM model, like a Valpal figure. Other AVMs are available. And they look at what you put the house on the market for and then what they think it's worth, and then compare the two. And you can see here that Adams, they overvalue by 1.57%. The average for the town is 0.98 for the last year. Whilst
Best, they've got an interesting number, haven't they?
well, that looks like they undervalue. Okay.
Yeah. But then variance.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in a second. That's caught my eye. Edward Grounds, they slightly overvalue at 0.87. And then what then happens is you then look at what was the price achieved. What was the price achieved from the original asking price? And Adams achieved 2.82% from the original asking price. Best's 1.01% over the original asking price. And Edward Grounds minus 7.43. There's quite a bit difference and variance in that. But what is quite obvious there is Best's strategy of putting it on at the right price actually ends up getting their vendors more money. And let us prove that to you, ladies and gentlemen. If everyone put on a £200,000 house, Adams would get 197, Best would get 201.8, and Edwards at 1867, and Purple Bricks at 198. So
normally when we look at this, Chris, just excuse me, isn't the average listing price normally 400? Is that a setting that you apply, or is that?
No, it's basically what happens is that they pick the average price of that town.
Is that right?
So if we were in Chelsea, it'd be like 1.3 million.
Are we doing lettings on Runcorn as well?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
So therefore, you know, the agent here, which sticks out like a sore thumb in terms of, you know, a vendor, I want to get the best price for my home, then Best seems to be the agent of choice. And therefore, Edwards, Grounds, and Adams probably need to have a look at what they're achieving. Now, again, we're dealing with AVM models here, and again, there are always criticisms of those. But at the end of the day, they're doing the same AVM model on all of the properties.
Different conversation if you look at it from a P&L perspective.
Indeed. So let's move on and look at which agent sells the houses the most. These are the top 10 agents in Runcorn, and we can see how quickly they get their houses away. So if we start off with Adams, they take an average of 45 days from new instruction to sale agreed and 159 days total, or we'll just hold that over 114 days. If we then go and look at the others, so we've got Edwards Grounds, they take 44 days to find a buyer, and Best 35 days. But again, if you actually, I would suspect Edward Grounds hold off instructing their sale a bit sooner, probably wait for the survey or something. So again, fundamentally, there isn't a huge amount of difference between Edwards, Best's. Adams take a little bit longer, but not a huge amount. Interestingly, the last year, it's taken 46 days to find a buyer, and the year before, 33 days. In the last year, it's taken on average 114 days from sale agreed to completion, and it used to take 128 days. So we're saving 2 weeks. Conveyances are quickened up by 2 weeks, which is very similar to what we saw with the national figures. Anything on this before we go and look at lettings?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would say on this in just terms of time to sell, if pretty much everything in the whole area was built post 1964, you'd think that things like land registry, digitization, all that sort of stuff, they'd be reasonably easy to convey. There shouldn't be a great deal of complexity.
Well, again, but remember, you're only as good as the person you're chained. And if you've got someone up in Aberystwyth with a fancy, I'm taking them what's the name here, but again,
do people move from Aberystwyth to Runcorn, do they?
They could do. Everything's a possibility. Yeah. Everything's a possibility.
Yeah.
Okay, you would think that, but again, that requires. Oh, no, anyway.
And they definitely use Adams, I suppose. Okay.
Okay, here we go. So let's look at Adams.
There you go. I was expecting that.
Okay, that's the growth of open rent from an average of around 8% to around. You know.
Sorry, hang on. Have you been messing with the numbers? £620.
That's for the whole year. That's for the whole 5 years.
What is it?
Well, that's for
rental.
Yeah.
My goodness me.
Again, it's what the market will pay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So let's look at Adams. So again, you're not going to tell much with the number of properties coming on the market because a lot of this is going to be recycled stuff. Okay. So Adams, again, pretty much treading water there between the 10 and 20% mark. Open rent, again, let's look at that. There, 40% of properties that came on the market in Runcorn in June came on the market with open rent. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you here and now, the stats, number of landlords setting up has increased by 43%. The number of landlords buying has gone down by 20%, but we're looking off two separate numbers. The net number of properties that are coming onto the market for private rentals is growing. I am a property statistician. My job is to write content on local property markets. So all this data I can nail down to the towns, but looking globally and nationally, the number of rental properties is growing. The problem is that a lot of your landlords are leaving you and going to open rent. And the reason you're doing that is this, I'm going to be quite blunt now, is that you're not offering value for money. All you're doing is collecting the rent and ringing them with problems. When was the last time you sat down with them and looked at their portfolio? Did you do portfolio management? If you're selling landlords up, do what Sally Lawson suggests and say, right, well, don't sell it. What we'll do is we'll just keep the tenants in there because if as soon as you put them on the market, they'll bugger off and you'll lose rent. We'll go and find a landlord who will buy those properties off you, and you get the landlord to sign up to an agreement that they will pay the buyer's a buyer's fee to buy. So the landlord doesn't cost anything to sell the property, 2% to buy the portfolio, and 2 years management. And you sign them up before you show them the portfolio. Works really, really well, really well. And if you're not doing that, they're going to be losing them. Open rent, again, they're still keeping on the market, but they're doing it themselves. Let's go look at home search. Okay, so they've been nicely around that 20% mark. Do know those guys, really nice people, really, really nice people. Edwards Grounds, Entwistle, Swetnams, Onward Homes, Martin and Co, Leave Property, Simple Life. We'll just do a bit more.
Sorry, are these 5-year numbers?
Yes. So we're not talking big numbers here, are we?
Well, I mean, non-existing numbers, really. Just go back up to the top. So 589 in 5 years. Okay. So what's that? 120 a year, give or take.
Yeah. Still not a lot, is it?
It's 10 a month, isn't it?
Not a lot at all.
No.
Okay, I think we'll leave that there on the lettings. Final thoughts, Kristian.
I found the week we talked about from a national perspective slightly uninteresting, if I'm honest with you. I found my journey to Runcorn very interesting, much more than I had expected it to be. It was a lovely little sojourn.
There you go. Well, thank you for your insight, Kristian. We look forward to seeing you in a couple of months' time when you'll come back or your name will rise to the top on the rota of the Property Stats Show. But more importantly, thank you for watching this show. It appears every single week. And we, as I said, look at the UK market and we also look at the a town or a city. If you're a Runcorn agent and you've looked at the stats and you like what you see, then that's great. If you don't, then you know where to improve. If you've got any issues with the stats, then give the guys and girls at 20EA a call. Thank you for watching the show. And we'll see you next week for week 27 of the UK Property Market Stats Show. We'll have a new special guest. We'll get a new one each week where we'll be talking about the property market. So thank you, Kristian, and thank you for watching.
Good to see you, Chris.